Last time you saw us, we were exploring the southernmost tip of the Georgia coast near St. Mary's. We're heading to Savannah. We found a large number of things to do both in and around Savannah that gave us a fantastic feel for the area without spending hardly any money. We do enjoy our drives. We'll settle into our base camp, Skidaway Island State Park, before heading out. Savannah is the oldest city in the state of Georgia and the most visited city in the South. The history of the city began in 1733 when General James Oglethorpe and roughly 100 settlers arrived by boat. Oglethorpe's vision was to create a new chance for the working poor, especially those in debtors' prisons. No lawyers were allowed here, so colonists could represent themselves. Slavery and hard liquor was banned. The new colony, named after King George, served as a buffer zone for South Carolina to protect it from the advancement of the Spanish in Florida. The historic district of Savannah is very walkable, but there are some things you need to know. This is an old city, which is the appeal, of course, but the sidewalks and stairs can be a hazard. There's other ways to get around. There were lots of bikes on tours as well as segways. We also saw these guys giving tours, but those folks needed to park somewhere to start, and parking is a bear. There are parking meters throughout the city. Can you save on parking? There's a couple of hop-on, hop-off bus-style companies that offer free parking at their main locations if you buy their tickets. Meters in some lots don't charge during certain times, or you might consider buying a visitor day pass. Just be prepared to spend some time looking for a spot. We did find a way to get around that was fun, though. Savannah Belles passenger ferry leaves from River Street. It'll take you to Hutchinson Island, or you can just ride it for fun like we did. It's a cool little ferry. Bikes and strollers are welcome on the ferry as well. While you're on River Street taking the ferry, you might as well look around. This area has lots of cool little shops and restaurants. We are more flea market type people, but the Hubs enjoys reading the funny shirts. You could also head to Broughton Street to browse local boutiques and well-known retailers. City Market, built in 1755, has unique shopping as well. Savannah's a pretty artsy town. The Savannah College of Art and Design is a pretty big influence here. Art galleries and art in the park seem to be a thing here. Savannah was considered to be the first planned city. Oglethorpe laid out the city around a series of squares in a grid pattern. Each square was surrounded by a community, and some lots were dedicated to community buildings. 22 of the original 24 are located across a 1 square mile area of downtown. The squares were originally used to practice drills for the militia, but today they're gathering places of beauty and history. Almost all of the squares have signs explaining a significant person or event in Savannah's history. Many of them have beautiful fountains. There are several monuments, statues, and pieces of history sprinkled throughout the town. You can find many of these in the squares. It seemed like everywhere we turned there was a beautifully designed building. This building, originally built by an Arab sheikh, was used by Henry Ford to introduce the Model T. The City Hall building is grand. It was completed in 1905, and in 1987 the dome was covered in gold leaf. You can walk around the first floor of the building for free. And remember those treacherous steps I showed you earlier? You can avoid them if you're heading to River Street by taking an elevator behind City Hall. Savannah has a large number of places of worship. They're not only stunning, but they have a long, rich history. The first African Baptist church was a stop along the Underground Railroad. The historic buildings have signs explaining their importance. Savannah definitely experimented with different styles. Along with its history, this is why it's such an impressive city to visit. It's reported that 40% of the 2,500 buildings inventoried in Savannah have architectural or historical significance. It was so beautiful that General Sherman couldn't bring himself to burn Savannah to the ground during the Civil War. Instead, he sent a telegraph to President Lincoln offering it as a Christmas present. Jones Street is considered the most beautiful street in Savannah, but really, all of the city is astonishing. You know I love cemeteries. We visited a couple. If you're already in Savannah's historic district, Colonial Park Cemetery is easy to get to. First established in 1750, the park became a city park in 1896, 43 years after the burials ceased here. As the city closed in, some of the graves lie below the paved Abercon Street. It's also full of victims from the days of dueling. A common practice began in 1740. It's believed that prankster soldiers vandalized the headstones by carving misinformation on the headstones showing some people to have lived 500 years. Located on a scenic bluff of the Wilmington River, the cemetery was established in 1846. You can certainly tell what families were prominent in the area by the statues and monuments you'll find here. It's pretty impressive. The gardens in Savannah are lovely, and I can't resist visiting a botanical garden. Savannah Botanical Gardens is free to stroll, but they do take donations. It features both formal and naturalistic plantings as well as a 2-acre pond. The garden is maintained by volunteers. For us, staying at a state park helps us unwind from the frustrations of visiting a city, even one as beautiful as Savannah. It was only 15 miles from Savannah. At only $5 a vehicle, this park would be a great spot for the whole family to get away. It has a nice picnic and playground area, and if you come here, I'd advise you check with the park to hear a ranger talk. There are 7 miles of nature trails that can be walked or biked. Bike rentals are available at the park office. If you want to stay here but don't camp, Skidaway rents cabins as well. Just like the large fountain in Forsyth Park, you'll find another iconic Savannah view here. Less than 10 miles from the city, Wormsloe Historic Site is a location for the tabby ruins of Noble Jones, who arrived in the area with James Oglethorpe and the first group of settlers. For a small fee, you can tour the grounds and visit the museums to learn more about the significance of the ruins. You can walk to the site or take the shuttle like we did. You can even ride your bike or take your dog, but they won't be allowed inside or on the tram. The oaks date back to the mid-1800s and was planted as a birthday present to one of the descendants. There are 400 southern live oaks along the drive. Located on Cockspur Island between Savannah and Tybee Island, Fort Pulaski preserves a place where the Union Army successfully tested rifle cannon in combat during the American Civil War. It cost $10 per person. We used our America the Beautiful pass to get in for free. We arrived just as the tour was beginning. Sometimes we do luck out. We had an excellent ranger who took us to the side of the fort to show us evidence of the Union troops' bombardment that lasted for more than 30 hours. During the bombardment, the new rifled cannon breached one of the fort's corner walls. Shells were now passing through the walls and landing dangerously close to the powder magazine. Reluctantly, the commander of the Confederate garrison surrendered.
What you're about to see is a choreographed dance between 6 cannoneers that it would take to load and fire effectively a siege cannon such as this. Rear, I should note that we are not actually firing a projectile, because if you look at where the cannon is pointed, we would damage our own walls. We do not want to do this, so we are just...
Turns out the fort was commemorating 100 years as a national monument. Also a number of trails to explore at the monument too. You're allowed to ride bikes on these trails, so that's what we did. With the beach so close, we had to go. If you've been watching us, you know the Hubs really likes the ocean. So we had actually planned 2 days here so we could let the fish suck on his toes a bit. That parking thing, well, it's a bear here too. In fact, we lucked out finding a spot to look around the shopping area. We gave up on parking that would give us beach access. So we headed to see the Tybee Island Lighthouse. There's parking there. It's both the oldest and tallest lighthouse in Georgia. At 90 feet high, it was the tallest structure of its kind in America at the time. I learned quite a bit about the lighthouse and the daily life of those who worked it. We have a tradition in our family. If we're watching a movie and recognize an area we've been to, we always say, "We were there." It's fun to see how scenes of places you recognize are spliced together to create a story. There are several famous movies filmed in this area. Here's a few of the popular ones. Join us next time where we cross into South Carolina to finally get our beach day at Hilton Head and travel to make it to Tennessee.
My wife asked me to put ketchup on the shopping list. Now I can't read a thing.